Grok Talk.
Welcome back to another segment on Grok Talk. I'm Steve McDonald here with Skip Murphy.
Yeah.
Our guest Doris is here. Oh, man.
The only button that's not pressed, and I go, yeehaw.
Okay, wait a second. That's because you were doing this. You were moving your headset around. It was making noise.
Yeah.
Interrupting my intro.
Yeah.
Anyway, coming to you from Concord, New Hampshire. Much more quiet, calm voices now.
A production of GraniteGrok.com, the conservative libertarian blog site of New Hampshire.
New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site. I am told repeatedly, leading conservative blog site. Welcome.
Some days we'll have to get you upright.
Leading. We're leading. Anyway.
Leading or leaning? I thought tipping over.
We're leaning. No, we're leading.
Oh,
we're
okay.
leading
But not,
conservative libertarian blog.
not leaning forward like that TV.
okay.
I bet you we have as many subscribers as that cable news channel does.
We
that lean
might.
forwards.
We might. Yeah. I'll lean. Oh,
MSNBC.
Yeah. MSNBC. Doris Hoensies here. She's running for state senate in District
13.
13.
Lucky 13.
So you were off by a couple, Skip.
Yeah, I
It
said
was a,
2.
It was a guess.
Oops.
District
2 is
13.
way up north, I think.
District 13. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
you're right. It is.
Yeah,
Because
they
one's
start
way up
way
there,
up
too.
there.
Right. Yep. Hey, you were in our last segment, and we didn't get a chance to really talk about your campaign or your race, which we want to focus on now. So take it away.
I'm running because there was no opposition to Betty Lasky, and Betty Lasky's not doing good things for our state, and particularly education. So I figured if I get in the race, I don't give her a free ride, and she doesn't automatically get reelected, and I bring forth to the table my issue. And if she wants to join my issue and help me, that's fine. If not, hopefully the voters will let me move forward.
I was going to say, this is not in a primary. You are the nominee because you have no primary.
Oh, people discourage me. That's not a winnable seat, and very few people, other than Gary Lambert, have won this over the past 100 years.
And you know something? I want to say thank you for putting yourself out there, because a lot of people are telling you, and it's a hard district. It's what, D+7? Yeah, so it's a heavily Democrat district. You're going to have to do some extraordinary type stuff to do that. But I think it's great that you're willing to put yourself out there. Probably, you've got a shot at it, because that's why we do the races, because people run and sometimes really good things happen. But I love the spirit that you just said. You're not going to let her just take it.
No. And I've been at this for 24 years, education activism and protecting parents' rights in terms of education. So whether I win or not, I will still be involved. But I think if I won this, I could really be effective. So I'm out there to push the ideas. I mean, not just, getting better, a better economy so we can get jobs in the state so all my grandchildren aren't born in California or out of state. We need jobs here, and, we need to work on all those really important issues. But education is critical because we're in a very transformative time right now, and we're just letting our schools being swamped by federal money, well, not enough federal money for what they're doing, and centralized so that our teachers are keeping their heads down, and they're afraid of what's happening. The teachers' unions are now speaking up and against some of these reforms, but the Democrats as a whole are throwing them under the bus because they believe that testing is important for our students, and then our teachers they get evaluated based on student performance, on tests that are not validated, that we can't see. So there's secret, unvalidated tests. Come on. I mean, This is ridiculous.
So education is your number one issue as you're
Number
making
one.
your run for, again, New Hampshire State Senate in District 13.
Lucky 13.
I'll get it. Jobs?
Jobs in the economy
is number 2?
Well, they're number 1 in terms of the state.
Okay.
My expertise is education.
Okay.
So, I mean, I want to get the economy turned around. When I came here in '79, we had a tech boom. The circle around Boston, there were loops that came all the way up to New Hampshire, and
I used to work in those.
Yeah. So, I mean, my husband has to drive farther and farther to jobs because that tech bubble has shrunk.
Yeah.
And my children, some of them that are also in the computer science industry, they are moving to California, and that's unacceptable.
Yeah. Although I will have to say that a lot of the high tech in California is starting to move westward to get out of the California over-regulation, over-taxed environment. In fact, I was just talking to my coworker who works down in San Diego, and I keep telling her, you need to come to New Hampshire because she has the same conservative outlook as we do. And
You said move westward, Skip. Are they transferring your jobs to India, or did you mean move to Texas?
my company's headquarters moved to Austin just a few months ago as sort of we talked about at the beginning of the show about the inversions that where domestic companies are becoming foreign companies when they move their headquarters over. My company did an intrastate inversion where they moved their headquarters from California to Austin, Texas, like a lot of them are doing, because they had a presence there, and it was just easier to do the legal stuff. But I keep telling her, you need to come because you're going to save a lot on your income taxes, 10% right off the bat. We have no sales tax here, so you're going to save another 7%. I mean, you're going to give yourself a pay raise, and it's a lot cheaper to buy a house here than it is in California.
Right.
You'll get a mansion.
But we can work at that. We can get rid of the regulations or the excessive fees and lower the business profits tax. We can work on improving our environment. There's many innovative things that we can do. I was talking to somebody last night. She said she wanted to talk to some of the candidates about dredging the Portsmouth Harbor because it's a straight shot from one of the biggest cargo container ports over in Amsterdam. And we would get all the shipment, and then we could offload it to smaller ships, send it to Boston and New York. We could get all of that business. And they were saying it was like 40,000 jobs for New Hampshire, something like in that vicinity.
Yeah,
because we've got the port. We just have to.
And that's the kind of infrastructure spending that I would be okay with. A lot of this is just make work that you hear President Obama talking about all the time, because it doesn't take the huge crews to build another dam or to build the highways. It just takes a few people and lots of capital equipment. But one of the things that we talk about here, Doris, and we're talking to Doris Hohensee, who's running for New Hampshire State Senate in District 13. See, right. I'll get it sooner or later.
Lucky 13.
But per capita, we have more boards and licensing organizations and those kinds of things that act as barriers to entry to other people who just want to create a job for themselves.
Right.
Would that be part of your platform?
Definitely. It's all those regulations, licensing and regulations. Those are burdensome. When a business makes a decision, they look at all those things and they factor in where they want to come. I want New Hampshire to be way on the top instead of way down the bottom. I want my grandchildren born in this state.
If got a point on the make work, Skip.
Go.
Yeah, so it doesn't work anywhere it's tried. Obviously, it didn't work for FDR. It's not working now. It didn't work for the Labour politicians in Britain in the 70s, which is precisely why you had a Maggie Thatcher victory in 1979, swept into power because Labour wasn't working. And, anytime you've got government to try and make work schemes, you basically know that their policies are destroying jobs and they're trying to cover it up.
Right, and Betty Lasky's no different. She wants to add tax credits to certain businesses that start up. Well, then what about the existing businesses that don't get those tax credits? That's inequitable. We need a level playing field. We have to make it attractive for everyone.
I mean, so that's a real big difference between you and her. She's willing to pick certain winners for certain times of their corporate lives.
Right.
You want to flatten and lower the whole field for everybody then.
Right. She says she's against broad-based taxes, but yet she just passed that gas tax, and that broadly affected everybody in the state. Tourism, you name it. All of our business, we're operating, now at a 23% increase in our gas tax. I mean, and she's also voted in her history of being up there for cigarette taxes. She's improving all of these taxes.
Improving?
Increasing.
Increasing.
Yes.
Okay.
Growing the government.
Yes. Now, I have to ask the obligatory question because it is a huge bugaboo with us here at Granite Rock. Medicaid expansion.
She voted for it. I would not.
If it proceeds the way that it's supposed to right now, there's a 3-year threshold by which it would then disappear.
Right.
What's sunset is the word I'm looking for.
We're holding our breath, yeah.
The question would be, the bill says it would sunset only if the legislature voted against renewing it. So the question would be, would you vote for or against?
I would vote against. We don't have the money. That will put us below the bottom. That will just take us out. We don't have that money. It would guarantee a broad-based tax. That's not what New Hampshire is all about.
Okay, now another question for you. We've got because it's a big deal because it was the biggest enlargement of New Hampshire state government in history
Right.
with the passing of the Medicaid expansion. We now have the Helbig versus Burwell case, which is the IRS credits. We run all of our people through healthcare.gov, which, if this court case is successful, it basically says the IRS will have no ability to give tax credits to the lower socioeconomic classes, which means that basically it's gone. Say again?
It's more important. There's the other half. In a state where there is no state exchange, the federal government and the IRS do not have the authority to distribute subsidies. We know that. They also do not have the authority to collect penalties. And the reason some of these states are suing is a protect our businesses move, because the reason they decided not to do this was precisely to prevent the federal government from penalizing their employers.
Yeah, that's called the individual mandate and the corporate mandate. So the question would be, what should the state do at that point? If that collapses, what do we do with people who are already enrolled in that?
We've got to make sure that we bring in insurance companies. We have limited insurance providers in this state. We've got to, get more competition. We've got to make a transition to help them get out. So, we've closed down so many people, shut them out of their pre-existing, their doctors, their this, their that. We've got to reverse the process, which is probably going to be a lot harder than just taking the money and running.
Would you be for legislation that would say, Mr., Miss, or Mrs. New Hampshire citizen, you can go and buy your health care insurance from any vendor anywhere in the country?
Oh, I'd love that.
Rather than only those that are based here in New Hampshire.
Right. That's what I mean by we need more competition.
I like this.
Well,
I like this.
I didn't have to ask the question because I always do. I always bring up, how do we get out of this mess? How do we fill in the holes? And it's always come back to the O'Brien plan, which was to open up the market.
Right.
Let anybody who wants to sell, who can sell insurance, come to New Hampshire and sell insurance, and it would bring businesses who didn't want to have to deal with the mandate, because we don't have to enforce the mandate, because we don't have an exchange. And it would make up for a lot of the other problems we have as a state, the licensing requirements, the BET, a lot of these things. If you increase the commerce because you attract more business through something like insurance, where they save a lot of money and they don't have to worry about being penalized, they come here and they begin to generate revenue, which allows us to look at lowering the BET and getting rid of fees and licenses and things like that. And it's all connected. And insurance is the key. They screwed us up so bad on insurance that we have a golden opportunity to fix a lot of things that we want to fix by just changing that one little piece.
And then we've got the schools. I thought in Manchester they're worried about the Cadillac provision. Having to kick back for all those teachers who have Cadillac provisions. It's going to cost the districts a ton of money. But what I've seen with a lot of these federal programs is there's a real danger on trying to get out. Like, take the Smarter Balance Assessment, that there was no public hearing and that we signed on before they even wrote it.
Now, explain what that is for our listeners.
Okay, the Smarter Balance Assessment is the Common Core aligned test that everyone's going to take in spring of 2015. It's not been validated. Nobody can see it. It's a secret. And all hell is going to break loose if students don't do well, then the teachers don't do well, they can be labeled ineffective and districts can fire them. But to get out of this consortia, the consortia has to vote you out. You can't just say, I'm leaving. Well, you can say that, but you still have to contribute. There's all kinds of, you can't get out of these
forced collectivism.
Yeah, so that's what I'm seeing in some of these federal windfalls with dollars, is you get in, but there's very little exit strategy.
Hotel California.
We're going to take a little break, and we'll be right back after this.
New Hampshire is famous for scenic drives, but they're tough to enjoy when you're on your way to the doctor. Because Obamacare limits your choices, some will have to drive more than an hour to see a doctor. What's health insurance worth if care isn't there when you need it? Jean Shaheen voted for Obamacare, putting your doctors and hospitals further out of reach. Tell Senator Shaheen, Obamacare is not working for New Hampshire.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning. The Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested, riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW, New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
We are back from our break. Turn everybody's microphones on. Even you, because you're not doing this, making adjustments.
Stabilized.
He is. He's not leaning. He's not leaning any direction at all.
That's the first time in a long time somebody's called me stable.
That's probably true. All right. Well, let's continue. We were having a great discussion, which I had to interrupt for a brief station break.
You did.
I did.
Okay, we were talking about collectivism, and you have to pay to get in, but they have to vote you out. You can't leave by yourself. And that immediately brought up another thing here in New Hampshire, at least a big deal on the right. And I'm going to ask the question in a partial way. We have seen in Wisconsin the big brouhahas politically about the right to work and the unions and all of that. My question to you would be, and it's sort of like, here's the string that if you pull it, everything else kind of just falls into place. In Wisconsin, part of the new law said that if a union is going to collect dues from its members, the state is no longer going to collect that money from the paychecks automatically and just hand it over to the unions. That if the unions want their dues money, they have to go directly to the members, and the members have to, hand the cash, hand the plastic, or hand the check over. Would you be in favor of something like that here in New Hampshire?
I've done that twice.
Just that little piece.
I've done that twice. I put in legislation. Steve Allencourt put it in 2 years ago, and then I think Emily Samblay did it or I can't remember. Maybe it was someone else. I've written that up, especially keeping in mind that the union dues for teachers is automatically collected by the districts, and I didn't approve of that. I think if you have to sign the check, it hurts more, and they can decide, well, maybe I want to stop now. So if they write the check, it's more volitional, and I like that. So we put it in twice. It went to municipal committee, and it failed completely. But I was there twice, and I talked about it. So I'm hoping someday.
Okay.
So you'd do it again?
Yeah, did it twice. I'll do it again.
How about the whole right to work question?
That's a puzzle why the unions are so upset. Now, this is not my issue, I understand. But I was at that right to work luncheon the other day. And read the newspaper. It said, the opposition says that nobody's forced into a union.
Yes, you are.
Well, they just said in the newspaper that nobody is. And I know teachers, they're not forced into it. And then there's that negotiating fee dues. And I had a friend across the street. She's a Democrat, lovely lady. She taught in Londonderry, and she didn't belong to the union, and she didn't pay the negotiating fee. She was a little ostracized, but she did it. So I don't know what the big brouhaha is. If they're allowing some teachers to do it, why don't we let all teachers do it? I think it should be a free choice. You want to associate with this union? Yes. You don't? No. Look at the Market Basket. Look what they're doing without a union. That's fabulous.
And we did talk about that in email because people weren't really clear what was going on. Market Basket's not unionized. There was a major shakeup, CEO change. The people, the managers in the Market Baskets, not just the employees, but the managers and the employees have basically gone on strike because they don't like what upper management did.
Yeah, and for those of you who are listening outside of New Hampshire, Market Basket in Dumouls is a large grocery chain here in New Hampshire. It's a closely held family business. There was a change of shares and an upset in the board of directors, and one cousin has been fighting with the other one for years and years and years, and quote unquote the good one was forced out, and the bad one was took over, and they replaced the CEOs, and basically all the employees effectively went out on strike. All the middle management went out on strike. All the distribution warehouse folks went on strike. The shelves are now bare in all of these stores. I think they've got 72 stores in New England.
I shopped there yesterday.
Yeah.
Now, I went in there, and I didn't know if they want. I signed their petition because I'm supportive. I spent almost $100. There's just stuff in the stores, not produce and not meat. And I went out and I honked my horn in support as I left. But it's like a Greek family feud. This is what it is. But the workers are such nice people, and they like that one CEO that's been kicked out.
Now, somebody told me that they currently have that 4% off thing,
right?
Which the other CEO said, people need a little break. Let's give them a little break. Market Basket gives out awesome bonuses every year. Mm-hmm. They give their employees fantastic bonuses, and they do that to keep the unions out because Kodak did it back in the day. And when I used to live in Rochester, they would give huge bonuses every single year, a percentage of your entire pay for however long you'd been there. People would buy homes with their bonuses. The unions couldn't come in because if the unions came in, they'd lose their bonuses. Right. Kodak was giving their money to their employees for being loyal, productive employees. Market Basket does the exact same thing. Now, I heard the new CEO guy wants to get rid of the 4%. He wants to get rid of the bonuses. If he does that, the unions are going to come in and they're going to take over Market Basket.
Right.
And then they'll be just like everybody else. There's no differentiation because Market Basket here in New England does have lower prices. I don't shop at Market Basket only because I'd have to drive about half an hour to get one. It's just, you do the economics. It's just not worth the extra gas. But if there was one in town, I probably would because the prices are... I've been over to the store in Tilton. It's bigger than the grocery store I normally go to. Much more selection, lower prices. I just wish it was a whole lot closer. Yeah. But, here's the thing. You've got employees fighting for their company. Mm-hmm. And they are using union tactics. They're dissenting. They're protesting. They've got the signs, all of that. But it's all of their own free will. It is civil society. Just like the Lowe's employees that rebuilt that disabled vet's wheelchair, free and they stayed after, and they made it good as new. And I didn't get to finish the rest of the story. The next day, the VA was so shamed by the story that went viral. He found a new wheelchair outside of his house. Finally, after 2 years, the
nice
VA
to have
finally
a backup.
Right.
Yeah. Well, this guy was supposed to have 2 wheelchairs because his wounds were such that he was supposed to have a backup.
From that. At least, they learned something.
No,
maybe they won't extrapolate to all cases, but they learned in that instance.
I'm not sure that they learned. I think they wanted to put out a PR fight. There's a difference.
Okay.
But, this is civil society of individuals saying we can come together voluntarily for a given purpose and try to make something right that we believe was wrong. And I think it's great.
The unions just have to work a little harder to be like that ousted CEO and stop worrying about fighting against right to work. They have to make their unions more attractive. It's not that difficult to do. Yeah. But speaking of unions, I want to work with the teachers union, and I've written them twice in Nashua. The Nashua Teachers Union are against that Smarter Balanced test, those high-stakes tests, which means all year everybody's teaching to the test because teachers don't want to be labeled ineffective and ousted. And they have replacements. They have this Teaching for America. They give college students 5 weeks of training, then they throw them in for cheaper pay. So this is a plan, and the teachers unions see it. So they don't want to lose all these. These are qualified, certified teachers. They're great. Some of these teachers are fabulous. There are a few that are problems, but that's society. They're good and the bad. But I want to work with the teachers union to protect those teachers because I don't like the data mining, the secret testing, the online, all of that stuff
issues
of that test, and it's not even validated. Why are we using a test? State law says that it's to be valid. It won't be validated to 2016 if they get 90 to 95% compliance in 2015. Well, we're using an untested test. It's crazy.
Well, the thing that gets me is that parents are totally pushed off to the side. In fact, they're not allowed to see the data on their own children. Mm-hmm. That, to me, we were talking about earlier about the progressive use of government to destroy the nuclear family. How much worse can it get when you can't see how your child is being rated at the school your taxes are going to?
Right. Because those tests, they're online, so all the data goes to the consortia because they're adaptive. You can't validate an adaptive test, but nobody talks about that. They've never used those for K-12, but we've got one. So if your kid does well with a question, he gets a harder one. And if he doesn't do well, he'll get him an easier one. So all of that data goes to the consortia, and they have a contract with the U.S. Department of Education that they have to give student-level data, not aggregated data, student-level data to the department, the federal department. and they're going to give it to the Labor Department. This is tracking. This is birth to death tracking.
Well, yeah, they've made it quite clear that they want to be able to track from kindergarten all the way through your participation in the labor force.
But yeah,
and you know something? I don't want that. It's one thing for school data to stay with the school. I don't want the U.S. government continuing that on and tracking through. And now, by the way, the IRS, let's make it even worse, is now willing to share your financial data for money with other countries like Iran and Russia and China and some of these other places because they're looking for more tax money.
There was a district in California. They had Arnie Duncan coming to visit. They needed to get a podium to put him on, so they sold data to build the podium. But anyway, the teachers' unions are asking for Arnie Duncan's resignation. So I'm supportive of that. There's a lot of teachers that have their heads down, and they need somebody to speak out for them. They can't speak out for themselves, or they lose their jobs. There's a lot of Democrats that are supportive of these teachers. They need to know that we'll work with them. We've got to build a coalition. This isn't partisan on education. This is coalition building time.
Okay, so education, economy, another two top issues for you.
You got about a minute.
Well, I'll just read to you. I brought a list of some things that she wants to increase the minimum wage. Well, that's just going to get rid of jobs. I mean, she voted for a state monopoly on gambling. That will only increase the size of state government.
Her husband stole campaign signs. Keep going.
Oh, yeah, he did that. But I'm hoping he does that again because that will help. That will boost my chances of winning. She voted for that gag order on free speech around certain buildings, the Planned Parenthood.
Oh, yes.
I mean,
SB 319, yes.
That's free speech. I mean, she voted for seatbelts. I mean, she wants to protect us from ourselves.
Oh, she wanted the money from the feds. $3.62 per person.
Oh, it's always the money. It's always the money. She voted for the regional greenhouse gas initiative. Try to get out of that one.
Thank you, Gary Lambert.
But she voted for it too. They shared the same seat, so she came down voting for that. She wants. She raised the compulsory school age to 18.
Oh yes, let's fix our dropout rate.
Yeah, they just redefined a dropout.
Yeah, we don't have any dropouts anymore.
Why? Because we call them early exit something or others.
Well, we took the money and we forced them in. Yeah. Then she wants to increase the governor's term, so she wants more executive power. And if we're not being taken over by executive agencies, I don't know what is.
If people want to get a hold of you, how do they do so real quick?
DorisHohensee.com.
Email address.
Doris.Hohensee@Comcast.net.
And that's HOHENSEE.
Yes.
All right. Well,
very good.
Doris, thanks for coming down and spending some time in safe, warm waters.
Yep.
And good luck on your campaign. My name's Steve McDonald. I'm here with Skip Murphy. Mike Rogers was on the phone, and I think I lost him or something happened. But we will be back next week with more guests, more button pushing, more of the wrong button pushing, and more grok talk. Thanks a lot. We'll see you next week.
Grok TV.